I'm Sarah Lytle, Executive Director of Playful Learning Landscapes Action Network, or PLAN. PLAN works with communities, researchers, architects, and designers to implement playful learning opportunities for children across the United States and internationally. We're really creating a new model here, and it's one that incorporates the latest science of how children learn, along with what research tells us about what children need to learn to thrive in the 21st century. Our goal is to create equitable learning opportunities for children around the world. Now, imagine for a moment the last time you saw a child engaged in a really rich learning opportunity. What did that look like? If I had to guess, I would say that that activity was probably meaningful. It was personally relevant to the child in some capacity. I would guess that the activity was joyful. You might have seen smiles or heard laughter. I bet the activity was socially interactive. That is, the child probably wasn't doing it alone. There was probably somebody else that they were interacting with during the activity. I bet that the activity was actively engaging. The child probably wasn't passively consuming something on their own. They were doing something. And the activity was probably iterative. It was something that children could go back to over and over again and have a slightly different experience each time they did so. Now, these qualities are exactly what research tells us is how children learn best. These qualities also describe play. Not all kinds of play are created equal, though, and researchers are really making a distinction between playful learning and free play. Playful learning describes a scenario in which the environment or the adult guides a child toward a particular learning goal. We don't tend to think very much about learning goals when we're thinking about free play. Free play is all about whatever the child wants to do in that moment. But more and more research is telling us that when we incorporate that learning goal into the activity, we engage children in the kind of deep learning that leads to a foundation for future success. Now, what does that look like in practice? Well, consider a playground example. Maybe the playground has a climbing pole for children. Kids love to climb. Maybe they will pretend that they are a firefighter sliding down the pole to their truck. Or maybe they are a pirate climbing the pole on their ship to see the horizon. These are examples of free play. The child is totally in charge of the scenario, they're having fun, and they're learning a lot through their imaginative play. Now, what if we added hatch marks to the climbing pole? It's a pretty minor tweak to the environment, but when we do this, you still see children climbing, and you also see children talking about distances, measurements, comparisons, and on and on. This tweak has preserved the playful nature of the climbing pole, but the environment now provides a guide that steers children toward a particular learning goal. Or let's imagine that you are exploring a garden with your grandchild. You could allow your grandchild to explore on their own and see what they notice and how they interact with the environment. Maybe they start pointing out all of the pink flowers, or maybe they start running through the paths as if it's a maze. This is free play, and your grandchild is learning a lot by simply exploring. Now, if you wanted to make this more of a playful learning experience, you might notice that your grandchild is especially interested in the pink flowers. Gently touch the petals to feel the texture. What do they feel like? Where else have you seen that texture or color in the world? How does the texture of the petal compare to the texture of the leaf from the same flower? Explore these things together. You don't need to be the teacher or the expert in this moment. You just need to be engaged with your grandchild. Finally, when you're stuck inside on a rainy day, your grandchild might use a table, chairs, and a blanket to create a fort. This is creative free play, and your grandchild is exercising their imagination. To make this a playful learning experience, you might gather some art supplies. Make a sign and decorate the inside of the fort. Then tell a story about how you each arrived at the fort after a long journey. Ask each other questions to develop the story. Then you might use the art supplies to draw your story. Suddenly, the fort is a rich language and literacy experience for your grandchild. In closing, play is critically important for children's development. In both free play and playful learning, children are really in the driver's seat. You might create the scenario for them, create that environment that allows for playful learning, but they really get to create their own adventure when they're engaged in that moment. And remember, the best kinds of playful learning are the ones that harness those 5 elements that describe what we know about how children learn best. So when you're thinking about designing an activity or environment for your grandchild, think about making it meaningful, joyful, socially interactive, actively engaging, and iterative. It's in these scenarios that we really see children setting the foundation for a lifetime of learning.